It was a chilly October evening when Jennifer decided to stop by the old Oakwood Supermarket. The kind of place that felt like time had forgotten it. The creaking wooden floors echoed with each step she took as she strolled through the dimly lit aisles. The shelves were filled with dusty products, and an unsettling silence hung in the air. Jennifer's footsteps finally brought her to the checkout counter, where an elderly cashier named Mrs. Thompson stood. Her frail frame trembled as she scanned Jennifer's groceries, her bony fingers moving with the delicacy of a spider. But something about Mrs. Thompson seemed off. Her eyes darted around nervously, and her voice quivered as she asked for payment. Jennifer handed over the cash, and in that brief moment, she felt Mrs. Thompson's fingers brush against her hand, sending shivers down her spine. As Jennifer turned to leave, the supermarket's old bell above the entrance jingled. She glanced back, and her heart sank as she saw the lights flicker and the checkout area plunge into darkness. A strange sensation filled the air, like a weight pressing down on her chest. Panic gripped her as she realized she was trapped in this eerie supermarket. "Mrs. Thompson?" Jennifer called out, her voice trembling. There was no response. She fumbled for her phone, but it was dead, devoid of signal. In the pitch-black darkness, she groped her way back to the checkout counter, hoping to find Mrs. Thompson. Or any way out. But the counter was empty, and Mrs. Thompson had vanished into thin air. The only sound that filled the void was the eerie, rhythmic drip of water from a leaky ceiling. Fear gnawed at Jennifer's mind as she stumbled through the dark, desperately searching for an exit. As she wandered deeper into the supermarket's shadowy depths, Jennifer heard faint whispers, like a chorus of lost souls. These whispers seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves, filling her ears with their haunting words. "Help us," they murmured. "We're trapped here just like you." Terrified and disoriented, Jennifer couldn't make sense of the voices. The aisles stretched on endlessly, and every corner seemed to hide some dark secret. The walls were adorned with old photographs, each one depicting a different era of the supermarket's history, but the people in the pictures all had one thing in common. They wore expressions of profound sorrow. With each step, Jennifer's fear deepened. She realized that the supermarket was more than just a place to buy groceries. It was a prison for lost souls, a vortex where time had stopped and despair reigned supreme. Hours turned into an eternity as Jennifer continued her fruitless quest for escape. She stumbled upon a storage room filled with dusty old ledgers, each one containing the names of employees who had worked at the Oakwood Supermarket throughout the years. Mrs. Thompson's name appeared on the list, dated several decades ago. Jennifer's heart pounded as she realized the truth. Mrs. Thompson wasn't just a cashier. She was a ghost, a lingering presence forever bound to the supermarket. The cashier's trembling hands, her nervous demeanor, they were all echoes of the past, trapped in an eternal loop of serving customers who would never leave. In the inky darkness, Jennifer made a solemn promise to herself. She would find a way out of this supernatural nightmare and free Mrs. Thompson from her eternal duty. As she pressed on, determined to unravel the mysteries of the Oakwood Supermarket, she couldn't help but wonder how many others had been ensnared by its haunted aisles. Destined to be shoppers in perpetuity, their stories forever lost in the aisles of time. Late one stormy night, Mark found himself in dire need of some essentials. The only place open at this hour was the Moonlight Mart, a supermarket known for its eerie atmosphere. With a heavy heart, he entered the store, the automatic doors whooshing ominously behind him. As Mark meandered through the narrow, dimly lit aisles, his footsteps echoed eerily on the linoleum floor. The flickering overhead lights cast eerie shadows that danced across the shelves like restless spirits. The Moonlight Mart was a place where time seemed to stand still, and Mark couldn't shake the feeling that he was not alone. He made his way to the canned goods section, and that's when it began. The cans started to rattle on their own, the noise growing louder with each passing moment. Mark froze in terror, his heart pounding in his chest, as the rattling turned into a strange, sinister whisper that seemed to come from the very cans themselves. "Help us, Mark," the cans hissed, their metallic voices sending shivers down his spine. "They keep us here, trapped in darkness." Mark staggered back, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He couldn't believe his ears. It was as if the canned goods were trying to communicate with him, pleading for release from some unseen torment. He stumbled away from the possessed aisle, abandoning his cart filled with groceries. The whispers followed him, growing louder and more desperate with each step he took. It was as if the entire supermarket had come alive. A chorus of voices from the inanimate objects that lined its shelves. In his panic, Mark made his way toward the store's exit. He couldn't take it any longer. The voices, the shadows, the eerie atmosphere. It was all too much to bear. But just as he reached the door, it slammed shut with a deafening bang, trapping him inside. Desperation clawed at Mark as he frantically searched for another way out. The supermarket had become a labyrinth of horror, its aisles shifting and rearranging themselves like a nightmarish maze. Every step he took seemed to lead him deeper into the heart of the Moonlight Mart, where the voices of the cans grew louder and more insistent. "Set us free, Mark," they pleaded. "We've been here for so long, forgotten and abandoned." Mark's mind raced as he tried to make sense of the situation. It was as if the very essence of the supermarket had come alive, its walls and products holding the memories and suffering of years gone by. The Moonlight Mart was a place where the forgotten and discarded found a voice, and Mark was trapped in the midst of their anguish. Hours turned into an eternity as Mark wandered through the supermarket's shifting aisles, his sanity slipping away with each passing moment. He couldn't escape the relentless whispers of the cans, and he couldn't find a way out of the ever-changing labyrinth. Finally, in a moment of desperate inspiration, Mark grabbed a can from the shelf and spoke to it. "I'll help you," he said, his voice trembling, "but you have to show me the way out." To his astonishment, the can in his hand grew silent, and a soft, warm light began to emanate from it. It guided him through the maze, leading him to a hidden door that opened into the stormy night outside. As Mark stepped out of the Moonlight Mart, he looked back one last time at the Eerie Supermarket. Now bathed in an otherworldly glow. He had escaped, but he couldn't forget the haunted aisles and the desperate cries of the cans that still echoed in his mind. The Moonlight Mart had revealed its supernatural secrets to him, and Mark knew that he would carry the memory of that night with him for the rest of his life. a testament to the eerie, mysterious world that lurked just beneath the surface of the everyday. On a quiet Sunday morning, the sun lazily stretched its rays over the town, and Amy decided it was time for her weekly grocery shopping. She headed to the Lakeside Superstore, a vast supermarket known for its extraordinary opening hours. As she entered, the automatic doors parted with a soft hiss, revealing the vast expanse of the store's interior. Amy grabbed a shopping cart and began her usual routine, weaving through the neatly arranged aisles. The Lakeside Superstore had always felt welcoming, but today, something was different. As she strolled, her cart began to move of its own accord. Amy's initial surprise soon gave way to confusion and then fear as she realized she was no longer in control. Desperate to regain control of her cart, Amy tried to steer it in different directions. But the cart resisted, veering back towards a particular aisle. The supermarket's overhead lights seemed to dim as they approached this obscure section, casting an eerie shadow over her path. The cart came to a stop in front of a dimly lit alcove. Amy peered inside and gasped in horror. There, on the dusty shelves, stood a collection of old, antique dolls. Their porcelain faces, painted with faded expressions of joy, sadness, and everything in between, stared back at her. Their eyes seemed to follow her every move, and their mouths moved silently, as if trying to speak. Amy felt a chill run down her spine as she watched in disbelief. The dolls were communicating with her, but their voices were mere whispers, like distant echoes. "Help us," they murmured, their voices fragile and haunting. "They keep us here, trapped in this darkness." Tears welled up in Amy's eyes as she realized the dolls were begging for freedom. She reached out to touch one, and as her fingers brushed against its porcelain skin, a surge of energy coursed through her body. She pulled her hand back, trembling with a mixture of fear and awe. The supermarket's eerie silence was broken only by the faint, melancholic melodies of a music box that sat on the shelf beside the dolls. Amy felt drawn to it, as if it held the key to unraveling the mystery. She wound the music box, and a hauntingly beautiful tune filled the air. Suddenly, the dolls came to life. Their porcelain bodies moved with a strange grace, and they began to dance in the dim light. Their painted smiles turned into expressions of joy, and they twirled and pirouetted in a mesmerizing display. But as quickly as it began, the dance ended, and the dolls returned to their silent, immobile state. Amy watched in wonder, her fear momentarily forgotten. She realized that these dolls were not malevolent. They were trapped souls yearning for a taste of life once more. Determined to help them, Amy decided to investigate further. She discovered an old diary tucked away among the dolls. It belonged to a former employee of the supermarket who had collected these dolls over the years. The diary detailed a tragic tale of a lost love and a desperate desire to keep the memory alive by preserving these dolls. Amy realized that the dolls were the remnants of a love that had endured beyond death. The employee's spirit had somehow infused these inanimate objects, and now they sought release from their eternal captivity. With newfound determination, Amy pledged to free the dolls. She embarked on a journey to uncover the mystery behind their imprisonment and discover the key to setting them free. In doing so, she would unlock the secrets of the Lakeside Superstore, a place where the past and present converged in a haunting dance of lost souls and eternal love. Thank you for watching. We can't wait to see you in the next video, as I always say. Until then, take care, stay awesome, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment for more fantastic content. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming up.